Welcome back, everyone, for your daily dose of what's happening in the financial world.
Lots to cover today.
We'll be looking at everything from those meme coins.
Oh boy,
Yeah, always a volatile area.
they are.
And potential class action lawsuits.
Always interesting.
Always, always interesting to see how those develop and some predictions for the market as well.
Yeah, I'm ready.
So let's dive right in and start with a story that really highlights, I think, the volatility that we've come to associate with these meme coins.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
So you probably remember the Tuah girl. Her name's Haley Welch.
Oh, yeah.
She became kind of the face of this Solana-based meme coin
Right.
after a video of her went viral.
Yeah, what happened with that?
Well, the coin named HKK, no surprise there,
Right.
was very quickly accused of being a pump and dump scheme.
Oh.
And a lot of investors, unfortunately, were left with some pretty significant losses.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Now, Mark Cuban actually recently expressed some sympathy for Welch.
Oh, interesting.
But he also really emphasized the inherent risks that are associated with meme coins.
Well, he would know.
He compared it to a game of musical chairs,
Uh-huh.
but with money, of course.
Yeah.
And you also pointed out that Satoshi Kusama,
Right.
who's the lead developer of Shiba Inu, actually declined to get involved with the HAWK coin.
Telling.
So that's pretty telling,
It is.
given Kusama's commitment to building a sustainable ecosystem around Shiba Inu.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears now and talk a little bit about interest rates and the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
That's always the topic that keeps investors kind of on edge.
Definitely.
So the CME FedWatch tool is currently indicating a high probability of a rate cut this week.
Oh.
However, Ross Gerber,
Okay.
who's the CEO of Gerber Kawasaki, has a bit of a different perspective.
Okay.
He actually believes that the pace of any future rate cuts is going to be slower than the market anticipates.
Huh. Okay.
And he's pointing to some things like November's strong retail sales. That's kind of a sign of strength in the economy.
So he's thinking the economy is more resilient than maybe some people think.
Right. And he's also saying that even with a slower pace of these rate cuts, that we could still see company earnings outperforming expectations.
Interesting.
So that decoupling between those two is definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, that would be fascinating to see that play out.
Now, you mentioned earlier about those shareholder alerts
Right.
and some potential class action lawsuits.
Yeah, what's going on with those?
Well, there's been a flurry of activity from Kahn, Swick, and Foti.
Okay.
They've been issuing quite a few alerts, reminding investors about the deadlines for those lead plaintiff applications.
And which companies are involved here?
The list is long, but there are some notable cases with companies like Cassava Sciences,
Okay.
Marqeta,
Big names.
and even the Toronto Dominion Bank.
Wow.
So with Cassava Sciences, they're facing allegations that they failed to disclose that their leading drug candidate, Simifalam, did not meet the endpoints in phase 3 trials. And of course, that resulted in a pretty significant drop in their share price.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a big deal for a biotech company if they're that far along and don't meet their endpoints.
Exactly.
Big problem.
And then we've got Marqeta, which is that fintech company.
Uh-huh.
And they're facing claims that they actually understated the impact of some regulatory challenges.
Oh, yeah. You know, those regulatory hurdles can really impact a company, especially in the fintech space,
They really can.
especially a growing company.
Yeah. And that's ultimately why they had to cut their guidance for that fourth quarter of 2024.
Makes sense.
Now, the case with the Toronto Dominion Bank, or TD Bank,
Right.
as it's more commonly known, is particularly noteworthy, I think.
What makes it stand out?
They're facing a lawsuit alleging that they failed to disclose issues
Oh, boy.
with their anti-money laundering program,
Okay.
or AML compliance.
Yeah.
And that resulted in a pretty hefty settlement of $3.09 billion
Wow.
and an asset cap.
That's huge.
Yeah, that was imposed on their U.S. subsidiaries.
Yeah. Big consequences there.
Huge consequences.
Yeah.
Definitely a case to watch.
It is.
Now, let's talk about Kyverna Therapeutics.
Okay.
They're facing allegations that they misrepresented clinical trial data
Oh, no.
for their lead product candidate,
Yeah.
and that was in their IPO offering documents.
You really can't mislead investors during an IPO.
Yo.
That's going to have long-term consequences for the company.
And then we have Five9.
Okay.
They're under fire for allegedly failing to disclose factors that were impacting their revenue guidance.
Uh-huh.
And that, of course, led to a drop in their share price.
Transparency is super important for investors
Oh, absolutely.
to feel confident,
And speaking of transparency,
right?
Symbotic had to restate their fiscal year 2024 financial results
Oh.
due to errors in their revenue recognition.
Yeah, revenue recognition can be tricky,
It can.
but those errors really do raise a lot of concerns about their accounting practices.
Yeah, and it ultimately did result in a pretty significant drop in Symbotic's share price as well. So we've got more companies to discuss, but I think we're going to take a break here and come back to those in part 2.
All right, sounds good. So many companies facing these issues.
It seems like it. And we've got another one, Rentokil.
Okay.
They're also dealing with lowered guidance, and that led to a drop in their share price as well.
What happened with them?
Well, they're being accused of not disclosing factors that were impacting their revenue growth in North America.
Interesting.
So it's like no industry is immune to this.
It really does seem that way.
Yeah, from pharmaceuticals to fintech to even pest control.
Wow.
It's really across the board.
It's all about transparency and accountability.
It really is. And it's not just those smaller companies either.
Oh, that's right. We had Match Group on the list too, right?
Match Group, yeah, the company behind Tinder and some other dating apps.
Yeah, what happened with them?
Well, they allegedly understated the challenges that Tinder was facing,
Okay.
which then led to them not meeting expectations for user growth.
Yeah, that market is tough.
It is very competitive.
Super competitive.
Yeah, so investors are definitely keeping a close eye on how companies like Match Group are navigating these trends.
Now, the allegations against Zeta Global Holdings seem especially troubling.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Well, they're accused of using some pretty questionable practices.
Like what?
Like things like two-way contracts, round-trip transactions, and consent farms to artificially inflate their financial results.
So if that's true, that would be a deliberate attempt to deceive investors.
Yeah. And manipulate the market.
Wow.
Serious stuff.
Yeah, big consequences there.
Definitely.
Now, Celsius Holdings is also facing some scrutiny.
Celsius, the energy drink company.
That's the one.
Okay.
They're accused of overselling inventory to PepsiCo.
Oh, wow.
Which is leading to some concerns about future sales declines.
Yeah, that could really hurt their bottom line.
Right, creating that backlog of inventory.
Exactly.
Now, the legal troubles don't stop there. We also have Visa.
Visa, really?
Yep, facing an antitrust lawsuit from the U.S. Department of Justice.
What are they saying Visa did?
The lawsuit alleges that they used their market dominance to stifle competition.
That'll be an interesting case to follow.
Yeah, that could have implications for the whole payments industry.
For sure.
So it really highlights how important it is to have a competitive marketplace.
Absolutely. We've got to have choices.
We do, and we can't forget about the last 2 companies on our list, PayCS Group and ASML Holding.
Oh, right. What's happening with them?
PayCS Group is currently under investigation by federal authorities,
Uh-oh.
looking into their reimbursement and referral practices.
Just sounds like potential healthcare fraud.
Potential, yeah. And that, of course, could have ramifications for patients and the whole healthcare system.
Absolutely.
And lastly, ASML Holding.
Okay.
They had to adjust their projected sales and gross margin targets.
What happened there?
Lower than expected financial results in the third quarter of 2024.
The semiconductor industry can be pretty volatile.
It can be.
I mean, it's cyclical.
Right, and I think this is just a reminder that even those established companies and industries that we think of as being stable can experience some volatility.
Yeah, good point. You can never be too comfortable.
Never too comfortable.
No.
So let's go back to Mark Cuban's analogy for a second.
Okay.
About those meme coins being like a game of musical chairs with money.
Right. I thought that was a good one.
I thought so too.
Really captures how quickly things can change with those investments.
It does, and I think it just emphasizes that investors really need to be aware of the underlying value or lack thereof in any investment that they're making, especially when it comes to cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, crypto is super unpredictable.
It really is.
A lot of speculation going on.
Now let's shift gears to the Fed's upcoming decision on rates.
Right.
Ross Gerver's prediction that those future cuts might be slower than expected has really sparked a lot of discussion.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes against what a lot of analysts are saying.
It does.
But I mean, his reasoning seems pretty solid.
It does. Yeah. He's citing the strength of the U.S. economy.
Right.
Concerns about that persistent inflation.
Yeah. You can't ignore that.
And his suggestion that company earnings could actually outperform expectations even with a slower pace of rate cuts is really interesting.
It is. Makes you wonder if things are shifting in the economy.
Right. Like, are we going to see that traditional relationship between interest rates and corporate performance sort of decouple?
That would be huge for investors.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, they'd need to rethink some things.
Exactly. I think this just shows how important it is to stay informed,
Always.
be adaptable,
Mm-hmm.
and really constantly reassess your investment strategy.
Yeah, you can't just set it and forget it.
No, not in this environment.
Not anymore.
Now, let's go back to those shareholder lawsuits.
All right.
I think the number of alerts that we're seeing from Conswick and Foti
Yeah, it's a lot.
really does underscore how important corporate transparency and accountability are.
They are. Investors need to know what's going on.
Absolutely. They deserve to be informed about the companies that they're investing in,
Yeah.
and those companies have a responsibility to operate ethically.
And be open with their communication.
Right,
Okay.
because when that doesn't happen, it leads to that loss of trust, damage to reputation,
Yep.
and potentially even those costly legal battles.
And in the end, it just hurts everyone.
It does, yeah. Transparency and accountability are crucial for a healthy financial system.
Couldn't agree more.
So we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
from that meme coin mania
Right.
to legal challenges,
Regulatory scrutiny.
regulatory scrutiny,
Economic predictions.
economic predictions.
It's a lot.
It's been quite a roller coaster ride
It really has.
through the world of finance.
That's one way to put it.
But despite all that uncertainty, that seems to be the prevailing theme.
Yeah.
I think there are opportunities out there
Oh, absolutely.
for those who stay informed,
Always.
adapt to the changes, and invest wisely.
Wisely. Exactly.
So that wraps up part 2 of our financial news roundup.
All right. On to part 3.
So as we wrap up this financial news roundup, it really seems like transparency and accountability.
Yeah, they keep coming up.
They do. It's a kind of a recurring theme in a lot of these stories.
It is, and it really highlights how important those things are for companies, especially when we're talking about their relationship with investors.
Right, like a lack of transparency can lead to all sorts of problems.
It really can. You lose trust, your reputation gets damaged,
Yeah,
and then you open yourself up to legal action.
exactly. So investors need to have that accurate and timely information.
They do. It's how they make informed decisions.
Right, and companies that prioritize transparency are more likely to build that trust with investors.
Exactly. And that leads to long-term success.
Now, let's talk a bit more about Ross Gerber's prediction
Okay.
that the Fed's rate cuts might be slower than what people are anticipating.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It was. It kind of challenges those expectations.
It does. It suggests a more cautious approach from the Fed.
Right. And what about his insights into the potential for interest rates and company performance to decouple?
Yeah, that's something to watch for sure.
I mean, could that signal a shift in how we look at those traditional economic indicators?
It could mean that things are changing.
So investors need to stay adaptable.
Absolutely.
Consider all the factors.
Think outside the box.
Right, because the financial landscape is constantly evolving.
It is. You got to stay informed.
Now looking back at that whole meme coin frenzy
Oh, boy.
and the Tuah situation,
Right.
what's the big takeaway for investors?
Well, I think it really emphasizes the importance of understanding what you're investing in.
Right, knowing the underlying value.
Exactly. And with those meme coins, there's a lot of hype,
Oh, yeah?
a lot of speculation, but often there's no real value there.
So it's a high-risk venture.
It is. You could make a quick profit,
Right.
but you could also lose a lot of money.
So do your research
Oh.
before you jump into anything like that.
Due diligence is key.
It is. So as we close out today's roundup, any final thoughts for our listeners?
Well, I think the key takeaways are
Yeah.
diversify your portfolio, stay informed,
Always.
and talk to a financial advisor.
Get some good advice.
Exactly. Someone you trust.
Right. Someone who can help you develop a solid strategy.
Right. Tailored to your goals and your risk tolerance.
Because the financial world, it's complex.
It is.
It's always changing.
full of surprises.
But if you stay informed, you adapt to that new information, and you make those well-considered decisions,
You'll be fine.
you can navigate those complexities and hopefully achieve financial success.
That's the goal.
So until next time,
Stay informed.
and invest wisely.